Good morning. My name is Nathan Leverette. I'm one of Jake and Peggy's many grandchildren. Roll call for those of you who need a refresher. The grandchildren include Bethany, born of Rebecca and Dawn, Ryan, born of Julie and Dan, Eric, born of Susan and Gary, Brianna and Bailey, born of Sarah and Fred, and my sister Stephanie and I, born of Cheryl and Jim. On behalf of the grandchildren, I was asked to collect some memories from our generation's perspective that we'd like to share. And I was told to keep it to about 5 minutes, but I'm told I also speak fast, so I'm going to slow down. I don't normally talk this slowly, and we're going to get through this just fine. I'm actually going to begin with Ryan's memories, who's here today. He took the liberty of writing more of a narrative in first person, which was unique and I appreciate. So I'm not going to paraphrase what he had to say. I'll read it just as he wrote it. So pretend I'm Ryan while I say this. Just picture me, but taller. So there are so many memories to choose from. Biscuits and gravy and long conversations about life while sitting around the table as an adult, holiday meals and board games while laughing way too much as a teenager. But my fondest memories are from when I was a boy. I would visit, I'm getting messages from our family who are trying to talk to me while I'm reading. Sorry about that. I would visit Grammy and Papa at their home in Regina in the summers. Mom would put me on a plane leaving Edmonton, and I would land in Regina to spend some of the best weeks of my childhood with them. Just me and Grammy and Papa. Our evenings were spent, the three of us, watching John Wayne movies and learning the finer points about John Deere tractors. Weekends were spent taking long drives in the green truck and fishing at the local trout pond, where Grammy always caught the most fish. However, daytimes were special. While Papa was at work, I got to spend one-on-one time with Grammy. We would sit and look through old photo albums, and Grammy would tell me stories about my father. That's where I learned the most about him. We would pick vegetables from the garden to make salads and sandwiches for lunch. Her tomatoes were always the best. And in the afternoons, she would take me to run errands around town, banking, groceries, sometimes just going for a walk. You know, they may have just been errands and walks to most people, but she had her grandson with her, so she was going to be intentional about the time that we got to spend together. She would teach me the most important life lessons that I would never forget. Sometimes subtle, sometimes not so subtle. My favorite lessons were about how to treat a lady. She was a Texan and a Southern belle, after all. Manners mattered, and the boys in her family knew it, including me. As a child of a widowed mother, she took it upon herself to make sure I knew how to properly treat the women in my life. She would make sure I held her hand when we crossed the street. She would make sure I always walked on the outside of her when we were walking down a sidewalk. I always had to carry the basket or push the cart when we were in a store, no matter how heavy it was. She absolutely would not pass through a door unless I opened it for her. I learned to wait until she was seated at the table before eating the meal that she put in front of me. She taught me to never complain because there was too much to be grateful for. She taught me that it was okay to cry, but make sure you also shed a tear for the people who have bigger problems than you. She taught me that you learn how to lead by first learning how to follow. She taught me how to respect my mother and my elders. She taught me how to pray. She taught me how to ask for forgiveness. She taught me how to love unconditionally. She taught me, by her example, how to live a full life with lots of love and grace and passion. Those summers in Regina when I was a boy are some of the best moments of my life and some of my favorite memories of Grammy. So thanks to Ryan for writing that out. I'm not quite sure how it happened, but among the cousins, Grandma and Grandpa collected some different names, some different nicknames over the years. You'll notice he refers to her as Grammy. And I don't know if she had a preferred pronoun, as they say, but I knew she liked that. I always called her Grandma, though, so for the rest of the time here, while I'm on the mic, that's what I'm going to refer to her as. Bethany is the eldest grandchild, and she said she will always remember Grandma as a woman full of kindness, gentleness, faith, spunk, and strength. I told her that was about half the fruits of the Spirit, and then something else happened there. I don't know what. Spunk and strength. Maybe it's the message or something. Bethany remembers how Grandma was quick to identify what people needed. And for example, she would swipe your water glass and wash it clean before you even saw that it was missing. She overflowed with sweetness, and anyone that knew her loved her. Eric supplied this quote when I talked to him about Grandma. He said, "I'm a 36-year-old man, and I want to be like my Grammy when I grow up." I like that. He remembered her selfless devotion to God, her family, and her community, wherever that was at a given time. He mentioned something that anyone who knows her probably felt at some time, and it's that when you spoke with her, it felt like you were the only two people on the planet. With a warm smile, she had a way of letting you feel comfortable in opening up to her. I agree with Eric completely on that point. She was like a portable safe space. She never gossiped. She was never dismissive or judgmental, never fake in her attention, just always full of love, devotion, and service to others. That stuck with Eric early. It still does, and he says it's going to remain with him. Stephanie remembers Grandma's combined sense of care and playfulness, teaching her the rules of board games and not just letting her win, but walking her through the emotions that came with it, and there were plenty. There was a grace about Grandma's teaching that kind of stuck with all of us. We didn't always absorb what she wanted to impart on us, as Stephanie remembers Grandma's attempts at improving Stephanie's sewing or cooking skills, firmly believing that these things will help her find a husband. Something that Stephanie was perfectly capable of on her own, and they laughed about that later, realizing that God's plan for her was perfect, but Grandma still wanted to help. Stephanie enjoyed learning more about Grandma as she too became an adult, hearing of Grandma's jobs, realizing that she too had a vocation where she exercised different skills and a different side of her in the workplace. But she almost never spoke about it because she was more concerned with hearing our stories and doting upon her family, which continued on when she had great-grandchildren. Whenever we were apart from Grandma, she made sure we knew how constantly she prayed for us. Grandma loved her people well and thoroughly. Some common themes run through our memories of Grandma. We're all grateful for her legacy that proves the scripture of 1 Corinthians 13. 3 things will last forever: faith, hope, and love. And the greatest of these is love.